My name is Peter Greydanus. I'm a hatching egg farmer from Petrolia, Ontario. My family and I own a hatching egg farm that produces about 14 million hatching eggs annually. My parents bought our hatching egg farm in 1990. And after I finished college, I realized I didn't want to work an office job and I didn't want to work for somebody else. So I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to buy a farm from my parents. And over the last 20 years, the family farm has expanded and I've expanded my ownership, or my family expanded their ownership. I've expanded my ownership. And the simple answer to why do I do what I do is because I love it. It's all I know. The three big challenges our sector face currently are labor, inflation, I would say. Now, it's not a challenge yet, but we are starting to worry that inflation is going to cause higher interest rates and borrowing costs are going to raise. So for those small business owners who are somewhat leveraged, there's a certain amount of interest risk. Obviously, there's labor and labor inflation, so we're increasing labor rates, twice a year, I guess. We're trying to maintain a good salary for all our employees. We want them to be paid as well as we can, and we don't want to lose good, well-trained people. And really, to a certain extent, a lot of them become family members. We don't want to lose them to other jobs necessarily because we're not paying well enough. And I'd say the third largest challenge in the broiler breeder sector currently is parent stock. The whole supply chain is somewhat stressed, and we buy our birds from a U.S. breeding company, and that breeding company is currently struggling to keep up with demand. So it's a supply chain issue. So I think those would be the three biggest ones in the broiler breeder sector today. I have made a habit of traveling to Europe if I'm interested in what new technology is coming down the tubes or what new technology is available. The Northern Europeans, predominantly Holland in the poultry industry, but also to lesser extent, just say Northern Europe, Northwestern Europe, tend to innovate faster than the rest of the world and create a business to sell technology to the rest of the world. For whatever reason that is, it's something they do. So when I looked for whether it be packing technology or like egg packing technology or ventilation technology or just a basket of different technologies, what's happening, I tend to look to companies in Europe, not so much companies in Canada. The only exception I could think of is Maximus, which is a Canadian company out of Quebec. The research and development and then the implementation in industry seems to happen quicker in Europe. Of recent years, we've been installing more sophisticated computer-controlled systems in our poultry houses. We currently utilize a system by the brand name Maximus. Maximus is connected to the internet, and we can control almost most aspects of our poultry barn via an app on my smartphone. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I used to spend more time in the barn, you could say, because you just didn't have the connectivity to double check something here or something there, a temperature, a feed amount, the feed ran, or maybe communicating with your suppliers, inventories of feed levels, inventories of your bird inventories. So I think the biggest impact of the last 5 years, 10 years has been computer technology coming to the breeder barn, the hatching egg barn. We haven't yet on our farm, although there are some farmers, if they were doing this interview, would answer egg packing technology and automation in the egg room. On our farm, we've ordered our first egg packer. It will be coming in the spring. And if I was asked this question in the spring, I might also answer packing technology, although we're not quite there yet. One thing that will come eventually to poultry houses in Ontario, and well, to my poultry houses, they have come to some poultry houses, are heat exchanger technology or a next generation ventilation, we'll call it. My barrier to investing has been return on investment. I've just never felt that there was enough return there to warrant the capital cost. They are legislated in Holland. in barns I visited in Europe, they're legislated. They're looking to get their carbon footprint down in Europe, and they've legislated some of this stuff. Whereas on the Canadian poultry barn, if I have natural gas, it's too cheap. The shale gas boom has caused, it's easier to burn natural gas than it is to look at heat exchanger technology. So predominantly it's capital cost. Predominantly it's seeing an adequate return. In Europe, they seem to have a different approach, and also they legislate a bit harder. And I'm not saying I like legislation. That's my observation. I have a little bit of experience traveling to the Netherlands, and the Netherlands, and I don't understand completely how they do it, but they seem to have a really large, really firm connection between research and industry, and they seem to be able to, the research university seems to implement technology faster than any other place in the world. To me, we just don't have the manufacturers in North America that are willing to take research and implement it, try and make a business and sell it to primary producers like they do in Northern Europe, Germany, Holland, Belgium, Denmark. So I'm not entirely sure I know the answer to that, or I can speak to that with too much education. But to me, there's not enough manufacturers in North America that are willing to implement research, or willing to strive to research and then implement it. I would go, do what I do. I would go and seek out producers who are willing to talk about what they would like to see, and come to my farm, stop in and say, hey, what can I buy you coffee? What do you want? What do you think we should do here? What is a barrier for you? What do you want to increase your performance or productivity or reduce costs? What do you see? And what can I maybe work at finding a solution to that? That's the way I would do it. That's what I do when I look for innovation. I search the world. I get on Google, or I hit the trade shows, and then I find somebody who will, in whatever country it may be, who will tour me around. And I call it R&D, rip off and duplicate. I would like to see more research and innovation focused placed. I believe there's room for information technology in the breeder house. I'm strictly speaking the broiler breeder sector. I touched on it earlier about computer control technology in the barn. I think there's opportunity for RDFI chips on breeding males. I think there's a lot of opportunity for higher controlled feeding, for specifically speaking the male side of things in the breeder house. I think there's a lot of room there for innovation. I try and talk to as many producers as I can in our industry, whether it's in my local producer association in Ontario, or if I get the opportunity to travel. I always sort of have an open door policy. If you're interested in touring our farm and you're in the industry, and there's no reason I would, come on. I love talking to people. Talking to people somehow always spins ideas. So most of my ideas come from word of mouth, talking, getting out there, just pounding the pavement, as it were. What keeps me interested? Well, I long ago decided that agriculture is a technology, and agriculturists, or farmers, I like to call them agriculturists sometimes, we started out pre-agricultural revolution, or pre-industrial revolution, as majority of people worked on farms. And since the agricultural revolution, since the industrial revolution, we're down to, it's continuously decreased the number of people in primary agriculture. Now we're at 1.5–2% working on at primary agriculture. So essentially, the story of agriculture has been technology implementation. So if you're in the business of farming, you're in the business of technology implementation. So to that end, you have to keep working. You have to keep trying to innovate, trying to be more productive, trying to do more with less. So that's sort of the job title in my mind. So every chance you get out and tour farms in different countries, different parts of this country, and you pick something, take pictures. I got thousands of pictures of chicken barns on my iPhone in the iCloud. And I take them home, and when I see something that I'm not loving how it's working in the barn, I generally have a sort of a Rolodex or lots of pictures of how did that guy deal with it. Steal it, rip off, and duplicate it. R&D.